Hey guys, Fan here, and today I'm bringing you guys a build guide for what my rogue is currently using in Diablo 4. I've been playing basically non-stop for 5 whole days now, and I believe I've found one of the best, if not the best rogue build in terms of farming efficiency. You can clear, I firmly believe that this build is the fastest rogue build, and that means that it is the fastest build in the game in general, in terms of like how fast you can cover areas, how fast you can clear dungeons, and also it is very strong. It clears mobs very quickly, hyper mobile, a ton of damage. The only weakness is it is a little bit squishy as it is on rogue, so if you're playing hardcore I would recommend you to slow down a little, pay attention before you dash in. But in this first part of the video I'm gonna go over the basics of the skills, how you use them, and then I'm going to show you guys how it looks in a dungeon run. So real quickly here on my skill bar, we have Shadow Step on Q. This is unstoppable, plus it is a blink to a target of your choosing. Very important, especially the unstoppable part, which lets you break out of CC, and there's a lot of CC in Diablo 4. So be ready to press this anytime you cannot move your hero. We have Dash on our W, 2 charges of Dash, which gives us huge mobility. We have Shadow Imbuement on our E, which is when we infect enemies with Shadow. Anyone that dies in an AoE explosion, which gives us great AoE damage for clearing the dungeons. And lastly, we have Death Trap. Now, Death Trap is used here mostly because of the modifier where it pulls enemies into the Death Trap when it activates. So this serves to clump up all the enemies into one tiny area right next to us so we can kill them all with Shadow Imbuement and Twisting Blades. Twisting Blades also, we have the legendary power that rotates around us. So between those two AoE damage and the Death Trap, gathering everything, we can kill everything instantly. Now, we are also using one important thing here. We're using Preparation. Every 100 energy we spend reduces our ultimate cooldown by a lot, and also when we use our ultimate, it resets the cooldown of our other abilities. Now this is important for the build because it gives you infinite mobility. This means instead of 3 dashes or 3 dashes slash blinks, you have 6. So what I'll usually do is I'll use 3 dashes slash blinks, skip through the dungeon, find the biggest pack of elites, I'll pull them together, kill them all, and then my cooldowns are all reset, so I can immediately dash 3 more times to the next pack of elites. And while killing them, Death Trap will almost be off cooldown by the next pack because we're using so much energy with Twisting Blades combined with our energy resource our energy generation mechanisms, which I'll explain later on. So it looks a little bit something like this. So if I was speedrunning this dungeon, you can see I can just double dash super quickly, triple dash with the unstoppable. I have a move speed after I become unstoppable on my boots as well. Really quick run speed. We see the first pack of elites here, right? So all we have to do is get in there, pull them together with the Death Trap, and then we just annihilate everything with the Shadow Imbuement plus Twisting Blades. We got CC'd there by the freeze, so we're gonna break out with our Unstoppable, and our ultimate is already up once again, so we can use it immediately. You can see how fast the CDR is with this build. It's absolute insanity. You have basically infinite cooldown reduction between the Preparation as well as the Twisting Blades cooldown reduction, and we can just keep running through the dungeons. You're super efficient, super fast. Find a pack of mobs, we put down our ultimate, we need to dodge the abilities that they do, and then we just chop them down instantly with our AoE once again, and we're already ready to move on to the next. Usually when it's like just a couple minions, I don't even bother because I'm speed running. Another pack of elites, ultimate up again almost instantly, right? They disappear instantly to the AoE damage. We're already moving on. Notice my dashes are basically never off cooldown even though I'm using them constantly, which is why I am certain that this is pretty much the most mobile form of rogue that you can get. And just like that, we cleared 4 or 5 packs of elites. This is on World Tier 4, the hardest difficulty, no problem, super simple. So I hope you guys can kind of see the power of this build. I think this is easily one of the best rogue builds. I was actually struggling a lot with rogue before I kind of thought of the idea of this build, and once I put everything in this build together, it felt far better than anything else I tried on Rogue. So that is the idea of this build. You can see the quick demo there. And now I'll explain to you the skill tree and what the importance of all the talent points are. And also I'll explain to you some tech choices that you can do. So this build, you'll notice, for example, I was using preparation when I'm running the dungeon. Now, when you get to the dungeon boss, which I didn't show you, or when you want to just challenge any kind of boss in general, what I do is I literally just do Shift C and then I switch to inner sight and it works instantly. So you can literally switch to inner sight at the end of the dungeon for the single target damage against the boss, and that will help you tremendously. And then when you're done, simply switch back and it'll instantly be ready to run another dungeon. So that is a very big tip for this build. And now onto the skill tree. So skill tree here is pretty simple for this build. We have 3 points into puncture, into fundamental puncture. This makes them vulnerable. This is really good against bosses in particular. Guaranteed vulnerable against a single target, so you do 20% extra damage guaranteed. We have twisting blades into advanced twisting blades. Cooldown reduction got nerfed a lot, but it's honestly still really good, so we're still gonna take that. We take both of these passives, damage reduction because we're rogue, really squishy. Siphoning strikes, one of the best talents in the game for rogue. Once you get enough critical strike chance, you basically heal for like infinity, which is a big part of your survivability, especially late game with this build. Next, we have our mobility options here. We of course go Shadow Step, and I take the Disciplined Shadow Step. This lowers the cooldown anytime you use it on an enemy that you didn't use it on in the last 4 seconds, which means your Shadow Step is up as much as possible, which is important not only for clearing the dungeon faster with more Shadow Steps, more blinks, but also so that your Unstoppable is up as often as possible so you don't die to CC. I have Weapon Mastery maxed out. I actually got really lucky with some of my equipment, so it's doubly maxed out, but really good passive for just extra damage. 1 point into Dash to unlock it if you need it for the mobility, and I also do 3 points into Agile for 12% dodge. Every time you use a cooldown, increase your dodge chance by 12%. I think it's capped at 12%, but because the build has so much cooldown reduction, you will always have this no matter what. You're going to be using one of your mobility skills or shadow imbuement easily every 3 seconds, if not more than that. So this is really good, always maxed out. I also take Exploit and Malice just for more damage. These are also really good passives for Rogue just to do more damage. And then we come to the Imbuements tree. I go for Shadow Imbuement into Blended Shadow Imbuement just to make everybody in an AoE vulnerable. It's very strong, makes them take way more damage. And also we go for the double shadow passives here. Now I will say this one is not super important, so consuming shadow is the more important one. This one basically gives you infinite energy in dungeons. Every time you kill like a trash white mob, you get 30 energy, which is one twisting blades about. It's almost like a third of your energy. So three trash mobs that you kill is like all your energy comes back. So this is amazing. You should definitely max consuming shadow as fast as possible. I have 12 points into this because once again I got really lucky on some of my gear. You're not gonna have 12 points into this most likely, but it's fine. Just max it out. 5 out of 5 is still very good. It will still functionally be doing the same thing. Now I also took the crit strike chance with precision imbuement because we're going for a critical strike build that synergizes well with siphoning strikes. And I go for Death Trap. Is uh Death Trap is the one that pulls them all to us, right? So we max that out, and I also go for move speed slash attack speed max on haste here. Haste is really nice. Move speed very valuable. Run dungeons faster, and attack speed, of course, kill things faster. 15% is a ton of attack speed as well. So haste, really good ability. Let me change this build a little, and I think I would actually prefer running like something like 3 into Innervate and 1 into Shadow Crash. Shadow Crash, not that important, doesn't proc that much. Innervate gives you a lot of energy back, so 30% chance lucky hit to generate 8 energy. Twisting Blades has a decent lucky hit chance, and every single blade that rotates around you, I believe, has a chance to proc it. So it procs very often because of the way Twisting Blades works. So innervation, very good. And lastly, we have Momentum here for damage reduction. Sometimes I do go for close quarter combat if I feel like I don't need any more defense. So you can think about this like close quarter combat, or you can go exposure if you don't need defense. If you do need defense, then momentum for the damage reduction is good. Move speed to run through the dungeon faster, also very nice, of course. So that is the skill tree of this build. Next, I'm going to show you the items that I have. So my helmet, what you want to prioritize on your helmet is generally tankiness. So max life, I think, is the best stat. You want a high roll on max life. Armor or percent armor, also very good. And the shadow imbuement ranks is also really good. So you can see this helmet actually only has 2 out of the 4. So this is not a great helmet. I could have two better rolls here. I do have the legendary power that you get a smoke grenade at the end of dash. That's actually pretty important. I dash into the middle of a pack of mobs, and at higher difficulties, if you do that, sometimes you can just die instantly. But with this, everything around the dash gets stunned for, you know, everything gets stunned for about 1 second, which is about all I really need in order to start up my Twisting Blades and get the lifesteal going for me to survive. So this one is really good with this build for the legendary power. Next, we have a chest piece. These are all really good stats. For chest piece, you can split it between offense and defense. I'm pushing high level content, and high level content like one shots rogue. So my current chest piece is fully defensive. Max life, really good. Damage reduction, really good. Damage reduction against enemies that are poisoned actually is a tech that I will be doing against Lilith. I'm trying to beat Lilith's the hardest difficulty boss in the game, the pinnacle boss, Uber Lilith. So that's a tech against that, and damage reduction against close enemies also really good. And for the imprint, I'm currently using Gain a Free Dark Shroud, and each Dark Shroud gains more damage reduction. You can really use any defensive imprint that you want. The one with the invulnerability bubble is pretty good. The one where you get a barrier when you hit an elite every 10 seconds, 30-second cooldown is really good. There's a lot of good defensive talents. This one is kind of flexible. You don't need this legendary power necessarily. And onto my gloves. So my gloves, I have the skills deal up to 20% more damage based on primary resource. This is very good for Twisting Blades Rogue. You get a lot of energy regeneration with Twisting Blades Rogue, either with Inner Sight or just with your talents, so very strong, legendary. On the gloves, you're looking for these stats basically. Critical strike chance and critical strike damage are the best stats you're looking for, followed by attack speed and ranks to Twisting Blade. So this one is almost a perfect glove, so to speak. It's missing 1 rank into Twisting Blades, and also critical strike damage is with imbued skills instead of just in general. So it could get a little better, but these are basically the stats you want on the glove. Remember, you want your crit chance as high as possible to proc the siphoning strikes, and that's especially doubly important because of this. This is going to be your best in-slot item. You don't need it in order for this build to work. I didn't find one until like maybe level 75 or something, so if you do not have this, which you most likely won't for a long time, what you're looking for on your pants is similar. You're looking for max HP, you're looking for damage reduction, you're looking for, you know, damage reduction while close, any kind of tanky stuff. And you can also take stuff that buffs your damage. So if there's something that's like buffs physical damage, or if there's something that buffs, you know, cutthroat damage, stuff like that, anything that you think will help your damage, you can take as well. But yeah, Temerity is the best in slot for this build and for melee rogue in general because of its unique effect where anything that heals you over your life grants you a barrier for 40 to 80% of your max life. I got really lucky. This is my second Temerity that I found, and it's a perfect roll. But this this is amazing because the lifesteal that Rogue has once you hit like 25 and then 50 critical hit chance is massive. Like my life will go from 0 to like 10,000. I would say even like 12,000 in the blink of an eye if I'm in the middle of a bunch of elites and I'm hitting like 100 different units that I sucked in at the same time and I'm critting like 50 of them at the same time. You're literally gaining multiple life bars from that talent instantly with Temerity. So that is why it's the best in slot item. Now moving on to your boots. A lot of good legendary powers can be on the boots. Currently, I'm using one that gives me a 25% move speed and I can phase through enemies every time I'm unstoppable. So every time I use Shadow Step, I get a huge move speed buff. But also, you can use the one that gives you 2 Shadow Steps. I use that one sometimes. That one's really good. 2 Shadow Steps is 2 unstoppables, makes you way more likely to die to CC. Sometimes when you use your Q as a blink for mobility, you get caught by a CC after. If you don't have 2, it can get dicey. So that one is also really good. And also, Critical Strikes give you move speed, which is another legendary you can get on boots, is also really good. So there's many options for legendary powers on the boots. For the uh, you know stats that you're looking for here, I really like plus evade charge. Plus evade charge is plus spacebar. Spacebar is really nice. Spacebar is good enough. Your evade, this is good enough to get you out of any damaging mechanic in the game if you play it right. It doesn't look like much, but if you play it right, this is enough to dodge every single damage mechanic in the game pretty much. So it is very, very valuable. If you're a skillful player, you're going to be able to use it to get out of danger really well. And speaking of how you stay alive on this build, you're either relying on massive amounts of lifesteal, so you're pulling a huge amount of mobs right next to you, and you're critting like 50 of them at a time with your twisting blades. In which case, when you get temerity, that'll keep you alive forever. If you do not have temerity, then you can just keep using one of your mobility skills every half a second, whether it be Q, W, Shadow Step, Dash, or your Evade. As long as you're using one every half a second, the monsters basically can never hit you with their auto attack, and you should be able to dodge all of the AoE on the ground, and you can still stay alive that way, even if you do not have temerity yet. You gotta really be skillful and use your mobility in this build to dodge the damage. Alright, moving on to the weapon. Twisting Blade is the highest damaging legendary aspect, and it's like the main, core ability of the build. So you're gonna want that on your weapon. As far as the traits you're looking for on the weapon, you want vulnerable damage. That is the one of the best rolls you can get. You also want critical strike damage. That is one of the best rolls. Those are the 2 best rolls you can get. No matter what, you want your crossbow with this build to have vulnerable and critical strike damage. With any melee rogue build, these are your top 2 stats that you're looking for. Your next 2 stats can be just whatever help you. You can see here I have dexterity, main stat for rogue, that's really good as well. Ultimate skill damage, actually not a very good stat. That one would probably be better if it was, I think the best one you could roll is a high roll on damage to close enemies. That would be the best possible 4th roll, but obviously it's hard to get a perfect item. So really for the 4th roll, you can look for anything that looks useful to you, whether it be like physical damage or whatever. If you think it'll buff your damage, it doesn't have to be the perfect roll. You can just take it. Moving on to the other weapons, it's the exact same story, no difference here. You can see I have a barrier, deal 23% damage with barrier active. That one is very important once you get temerity. Before you get temerity, you can still get a barrier with the legendary I mentioned earlier, where you get a barrier every time you hit an elite. However, that's obviously, I have a permanent barrier with temerity, so this is a very good legendary powered. All the stats you're looking for on the daggers are the same as the crossbow. I also have another unique here. I think this is really good. Probably the second best in slot for rogue. Every time you attack with the weapon, you get more attack speed, up to 20% attack speed. Attack speed is incredibly valuable with twisting blades, for a variety of reasons. So definitely keep a lookout for that one. And now moving on to Amulet. This is a very important legendary power. I think every class should be using this somewhere. It's the best defensive legendary power in the game. Every time you deal damage of any kind, you gain armor, and it stacks up to 50%, but if you put it on Amulet, it's 75%. So really good. On the Amulet, you're looking for plus ranks to some kind of offensive talent. You can see here, I got a really good Amulet, really lucky with this one. I have +3 to a Weapon Mastery passive, and I have +3 to all imbuements, which is just, +6 to my damaging abilities, which is really good. You can also look for, I believe max HP spawns on amulets. That's really good as well. Or damage reduction or armor percentage. Any of those would be good as well. Critical strike chance is the other one that is really, really good. The critical strike chance in general on anything is really good for this build, so keep that in mind. And as you can see here for the rings, that is exactly what's happening. We have critical strike chance, critical strike damage. Those are the two best ones. Damage to close enemies, like I mentioned earlier, really good one as well. This I didn't even realize here actually, but my legendary powers got doubled here, so I don't even have a legendary power on this ring right now. I'll have to put a different one on it. You could use a variety of different legendary powers, and this ring is pretty much the same. You can see it's the same thing, except I have vulnerable damage and physical damage. Vulnerable damage is better than close damage. Vulnerable, critical strike chance, critical strike damage, those are the best 3 attributes you're looking for. But then for the fourth one, just take whatever makes sense. As you can see, I have physical and close damage there, both of which do help out this build. Now for the last aspect, legendary aspect that I would use on here, I would probably use something like, there's a lot of stuff you could use, honestly. It's a little bit flexible. Something like this could be really good. Your imbuement skills have 40% extra potency against vulnerable enemies, but there's also multiple other offensive skills that could work with this build. So kind of flexible. If you see a power that you like, you can substitute it in for this build. So that is basically how this build works. If you have any questions, leave your questions in the comments below. I'll try to answer it for you. I will give you a quick peek at the Paragon board. I'm not done with it yet, so I will have a full Paragon video out, when I'm actually finished with it. Also, they keep nerfing Paragon stuff, so this might change next time Blizzard does a balanced patch, but so I won't go into full detail on the Paragon board here, but I will give you guys a quick glimpse onto all the glyphs here with Cutthroat on the starting board and what all the boards are, so you can maybe take a screenshot or go through the video. If you want to copy the board, you can. My second board is Cunning Stratagem. The socket is Efficacy. My third board is Exploit Weakness, and I socketed the combat glyph here. My fourth board is Leirana's Instinct, and I socketed Tracker, which is more poison damage. This is because I'm going to switch to poison in order to fight the Uber Lilith boss. So I'll cover that after I show you this board. My fifth one is No Witnesses, and the glyph is Exploit. And I'm still not done leveling, so eventually I'll have a sixth board as well. But I'll cover all this in a Paragon video in the future. And the reason why I have the extra poison damage is because I'm planning on doing a quick respec, and with this build you can do a quick respec within the skill tree. If you want pure single target damage, there's a very easy way to just respec this. All right, so I'm going to show you. So instead of taking Death Trap, you take Shadow Clone. Is much better single target damage. So if you're at like a capstone dungeon boss and you want to maximize your single target damage, some really hard single target boss, just switch the ultimate, switch the imbuement like this. Just take everything out of poison and put it, take everything out of shadow, put it all into poison like this. Yeah, actually like this, and then that is that's basically it. That's all you need to do. You just switch shadow for poison, and you switch Death Trap for Shadow Clone, and now you're ready to do a huge amount of extra single target damage. So that's why I'm using the Poison Imbuement board or glyph. But yeah, that's about it for this build. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any comments, make sure to leave them in the comments. Make sure to like the video as well to help me out. I can keep making more of these videos if I see people enjoy watching them. But until next time, thanks for watching.